Welcome to Pembroke Today. I'm Julie Thompson, the guest host, and we have, of course, Ed Thorne, who is the town administrator for the town of Pembroke. Welcome, Ed.
Jules, always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to talking to you about the budget process.
Right.
So why don't you tell everybody that's watching how the budget process works, and how does it begin, and who are the players involved?
Well, back in late fall, it was apparent on our side, the town side, that the advisory committee had notified us that they were no longer going to be conducting a series of individual meetings with the department heads, that they wanted the town administrator and the town accountant to go ahead and do their thing, meaning to meet with the individual departments and to prepare a budget, and that when I really finalized the budget, hopefully by the end of January, that then I would give them a copy of it, and if they had any questions regarding any of the departments, then they would ask the departments to come in and discuss it, or invite myself or the town accountant.
Now, is that a departure from the normal?
It's been kind of sliding that way over the last several years. I think what advisory has come up with is that, you know what, by the beginning of February, the town administrator's budget's pretty much cut and dry, and there aren't too many other decisions that have to be made.
Right.
So why waste our time having all these smaller meetings when we'll just let the town administrator and the town accountant do everything, and then he'll furnish a finished product by the end of January.
Now, let me ask you something. For anyone who doesn't know exactly, what is actually the major role of the advisory committee?
Well, 25 years ago, they were the ones that prepared the budget and presented it at the town meeting. But that was before the town administrator's position was created in 1998.
Okay.
And of course, since then, it's evolved where the town administrator has become the chief financial officer of the town and literally has put together the budget. And advisory has understood that. And, one of their roles is as advisory, and they also can control the purse strings of what is known as the reserve fund.
Okay.
And that's a fund that is set aside every year for emergencies that occur in the town during the course of the year, and that department heads, if there's a water main break somewhere or something happens at town hall, that we would go to advisory and ask for some emergency funding, and that's what they're in charge of.
So they're the only entity that can touch that fund?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So now that's their basic, aside from actually advising you, if you need advice, or if any of the department heads need advice, they're in charge of that.
Yeah, and I think
fund.
that they still have, clout at town meeting and have the recommendations that they make on all the articles, in addition to the budget article. But the budget article, which is the big thing at the annual town meeting, right now it's being worked on by the town accountant, myself, and all the department heads.
Okay, so the budget has to be done by the end of January.
Well, that's our goal.
Okay.
I think that on January 22nd at the next selectmen's meeting, I'm prepared to be presenting almost two kinds of budgets. One that's balanced using current revenues, and another that may require an operational override for both the school departments and town government.
In general, okay.
So, but that's something that we're going to be working on between now and January 22nd. Okay,
and January 22nd is when the annual town meeting warrant opens.
Yeah, it's, coincidentally, that's the way it's going to happen.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, we've been meeting with all the department heads and working out different scenarios. We have pretty much a balanced budget, but one of the things that we've been meeting with the school department on is whether or not that the funding under a balanced budget is sufficient for the schools. We think right now in this day and age in the town of Pembroke that maybe this balanced budget that we've got we're looking at, it may not be enough to provide the services that we want in the community from a public safety and a public works standpoint. So those are things that we've been kicking around the last couple of months regarding that. So yeah, like I said, we have a balanced budget but the one that we're really looking at is something that might require an operational override.
Okay.
So,
And that would be up to the voters.
Yeah, that
Yep.
would be up to a couple of scenarios. Number one, it would, if we chose to go that route, then we would have to have a series of public hearings that are not required, but it would be necessitated
Sure.
because we want to inform the public about the things that we want to accomplish.
And why?
And we would have a series of meetings and charts that would show, why we are looking for, additional monies outside of the Prop 2.5 limits that we have in town.
Gotcha. Now, you made your first report to the Board of Selectmen just this past Monday night.
That's correct.
And what did you tell them at the time?
Well, I told them that I might be coming back to them for the first time in my tenure with a potential of a second budget that would require Prop 2.5 override, and that would be a debt exclusion override that would be forever. I mean, there's two. I shouldn't say that. I said debt exclusion, and then you have overrides. Debt exclusion was for the life of a particular project. For instance, when we broke away from Silver Lake, and we paid a lot of money, almost $100 million, to renovate the 3 elementary schools, build a new middle school, and renovate
the high school.
High school. Those projects were borrowed to pay for that, and they are time specific. For instance, a lot of those elementary school projects and the high school and middle school projects are going to an end in 2025, 2026, and 2027. So they're just for the life of the borrowing for that particular project. And that's what the debt exclusion scenario is all about. For an override, that is for the life. I mean, as long as the town wants to have it.
That's forever. Okay. So, so what is your update for the board on the 22nd and the next board meeting going to be?
Well, number one, I'm going to explain to them that the future of our revenues.
Of
Of
our existing revenues.
Existing revenues, what we're collecting, what we anticipate collecting for FY19. Maybe we'll tweak a few numbers here and there, but there's only so much that we can do.
Right.
The number one source of revenue in the town of Pembroke is the tax levy, the property taxes that people pay. And because of Prop 2.5, which is the law that was passed many years ago, we're only allowed to increase the amount of taxes that we raise to pay for town and school government by 2.5%.
Is that each year?
Each year.
Each year, so is it the tax rate that could go up, or the total amount that any person would be paying?
Believe it or not, it's the total amount that, first you have the total assessed value of the entire town. And then you divide that by the amount of money that you can raise. And then the assessors have a formula where they set the tax rate, the individual tax rate per household. And it's per
thousand of assessed value.
Right.
Is it the same for businesses and dwellings and personal dwellings now?
In Pembroke, it is.
It is,
It is historically.
It was different, right?
The selectmen have always chosen, based on the advice of the Board of Assessors every year, to have a single rate. For both businesses, commercial, industrial, and residential.
Right. And you assume it's the size of the entity anyway. So if you have a big, huge business, it's going to be assessed at a larger value. So we'll get more money, even though the price per thousand is the same as a residential house.
Yeah, some communities have split rates, but most don't.
So aside from the property taxes, the bulk of the money that the town takes in, what other forms of income does the town have?
State aid. That's number 2. And basically the number one source of state aid is what is known as Chapter 70 money. And that is money that is designated for schools. Now, in our case, with the school department budget of 33 million, and we only get 13+ million from the state, that that equates to like about 41% of the budget comes from the state. So the town then is responsible for about 60% of the school department budget.
Now, is that unusual? Is our town lower than, I mean, I've heard that other towns get more money.
Sometimes
More
it really has,
percentage?
the formula, if I knew the formula, I wouldn't be working for the town of Pembroke.
Yeah.
I would be on Wall Street
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
doing something like that. The formula is very complex. In some instances on the South Shore, some towns get less than we get.
Okay.
Some towns get more.
And it's just not by student population,
It's population, it's
it's a whole
demographics, it's per capita
bunch of stuff,
income,
right?
it's
Okay.
a
okay.
bunch of stuff.
And that changes, when do you know how much you're going to get in state aid
Well,
each
that's
year?
up to the state legislature.
Okay,
You know, we always want to have, you know, several years ago, the legislature really did cities and towns a favor by adopting what is known as a local aid resolution, where they deal with the local aid contributions to cities and towns as a first order of business in their budget process.
that's nice.
As opposed to
Yeah, the
waiting
last
until
thing,
May
yeah,
or
yeah.
June, you know,
Yeah.
to find that out. So we're hoping that the legislature does that this year.
Right.
You know, in fact, we hope every year they do it. You know, and there are several sources. The two main sources of revenue that are in the local aid resolution are Chapter 70 money for schools,
yep.
and the old lottery money. It's
Right.
now called local aid,
Yep.
and that goes strictly to towns.
Yep,
It's not a lot of money. It's about usually about 1.6, 1.7 million.
Okay.
It seems like a lot, but
Yeah.
when you have a $63 million budget like the town of Pembroke
Right.
does, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it goes a long way, but I mean, it is a smaller amount of money than what the Chapter 70 money is. A third pot of money that we have is called local receipts.
okay,
And the number one, that's about $6.5 million a year. The number one category there is the motor vehicle excise tax.
yep.
And that,
Every time you buy a new car.
every time you buy, and you get taxed every year.
Yeah,
you know,
but it
and
goes down,
it
but that
goes
first
down,
year
but-
is bad.
Yeah, absolutely. That
Yeah.
first year, you know, so we encourage people to buy new cars every year.
Of course you
right?
do, of course you do, right.
And that runs about 2.5 million, 2.67 million.
Okay.
And like I said, that's our number one source of revenue there. And then we have sort of things like the fees and the building permits that we charge.
Do you get like the meals tax at all the restaurants?
I was going to mention the meals
Okay,
tax.
so we
has
get that
become
too.
Very popular. It was a great thing that the town meeting passed
Yeah.
several years ago. It's 0.75% of the meal. So
Right.
if you have a $50 meal,
It adds up,
it's like $1. You
but it
know,
adds
it's-
up for the town.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
It's $300,000.
Yeah, yeah. Now, does that go into a special fund and is used for a special thing, or does it go
You
into
know,
the general pot?
In a perfect world, that's what we would like to do. We would like to set that aside. And there may come a time in the future where we do that. If we get to a point where we get enough revenue that we could set that kind of money aside
yep.
for capital.
Yep.
We're going to be looking at some options to the meals tax as well. But right now, we use it to balance our budget. So it's part of the general fund revenue.
Okay. Now, let me just ask you a question again about the local aid, the state aid that you get. Is there a certain percentage or a certain amount that you can bank on that you know you're going to get minimal, I'm going to get this much money? Or do you literally not know until you're notified?
Unless we had a very catastrophic situation that occurred
In the state?
In the state when Mitt Romney was the governor, where he exercised 9 C cuts mid-year.
Yeah,
And what he did is they cut the aid to the towns.
yep,
And that required us to make some serious personnel cuts during
Right.
the year. But other than that, normally the amount of money that we got in the previous year, we could bank on for
That you'll
the
get
upcoming year.
approximately that much.
Right.
And maybe sometimes a little bit more?
We are hoping always for
Okay.
a 3-4% increase.
Can you request more? I mean, can you put forward, we have all these different initiatives we want to do, or don't they care?
Well, the number one advocate of cities and towns in Massachusetts is the Mass Municipal Association, the MMA.
Okay,
They're our number one lobbyist for all cities and towns.
Okay.
And they always when they put together their legislative package for the state legislature, every budget session, they always ask for more money in local aid, in Chapter 70 money,
yeah, for schools.
and in Chapter 90 money, which is the monies that we get for roads
Oh,
in town.
oop.
So those are three things that we always have our MMA and our state legislatures and state senators lobby for.
They're fighting for you, okay.
Right.
Okay. Now, what other reasons, aside from, so what is the reason for the first budget you're going to prepare is just the money that you know you're going to get, based on, and that's to have everything continue as is. Your second budget is going to include things that we really believe we need as a town.
Yeah.
Talk about that, the difference.
Things that we believe that we would like to have but can't afford.
Exactly.
Under the current situation, the current Prop 2.5
Right,
cap on there.
right.
So in order to have maybe more police officers,
Yep,
more firefighters,
yep,
you know, extra money for street paving,
Mm-hmm.
because our Chapter 90 money for street paving is around $540,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
The DPW has a pavement management plan, which is really well done. And it shows that in order to keep ahead every year on paving streets so that you don't fall behind
Yeah.
and you get more streets in disrepair
Yeah.
than you can fix, they need around $800,000 a year.
ooh, okay.
And so,
So there's a shortfall there.
yeah, and so we've been looking at that, and we're looking at the possibility of asking the voters in Pembroke to kind of pony up the difference between what we get in Chapter 90 money and what would be required to do a really good job on streets in town. If that difference is in the 300,000 range, that might be something that we start thinking about asking the
For,
voters.
yep.
Because I know that that's, you know, people love it when their streets get resurfaced
they
and
do.
paved and
Yeah.
everything. You know, we've done a really good job when we've done these streets about keeping as much truck traffic as we can off the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, we're successful in getting a truck exclusion for
Yeah,
Valley Street
yeah,
and Birch
yeah.
Street. So almost all of the last east-west streets in Pembroke, you know, would prohibit trucks from using Pembroke as a cut-through
Yeah, sure.
from Route 53 to
Yep.
Route 27 or, you know,
Yep.
other highways, you know, west of town.
Now, can I just ask, I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt, all the work that's being done with all the sidewalks through the town, is that the same money or is that a totally different
Totally
project?
different.
Okay,
Especially the Route 14 project that goes from Route 53 all the way
Yes.
through the center of town to Hanson. That is all federal money,
okay,
federal and state money.
okay,
Now, that being said, when you use federal and state money,
yeah,
they are requiring you to have a certain width of the road and sidewalks and curbs.
right.
So,
you
okay,
have to do it.
that's
Yep,
fine. I
yep,
mean,
yep.
but, you know, one of the things that we have found out from the surveys that we do in town is that people want more sidewalks.
Yeah, yep,
They want to be able to walk.
Yep, or
and
ride the bikes,
especially
yep.
in and around the center of town. And that's why we were able to do the Hoppemock Sidewalk project, you know,
which looks
past,
great, by the way.
this past fall. Yeah, it really turned out great.
looks nice.
So, you know, so hopefully we're going to have a couple other, we got another major project that's scheduled for construction in a couple of years, and that'll be Route 36, which is Center Street.
Yep.
From the center of Pembroke all the way south to the Halifax line. You know, through Route 27.
Right over 27, yep.
Right.
Right.
So, and that'll have sidewalks as well.
Great, all right. So so that's one thing that would not be included in our regular budget that we need to ask the voters for probably a little bit more money to keep those roads maintained. Once we do them, we don't, there was a few years ago, we had a really bad winter and the plows had to plow and the roads got all eaten up. Do you remember that? Now, in a case like that, that's an unusual case, right? You're talking about just having enough money to keep up with the planned regular maintenance of all the roads around the town.
Planned maintenance and also resurfacing. I mean,
resurfacing,
putting
right.
new pavement on
On top,
streets.
yep,
You
right.
know, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people, we have several that that are major thoroughfares in town
Yeah.
that we would like to have done.
Yep.
I mean, without naming them right now because I don't want to put the DPW on the spot, but there are 3 or 4 right now that we know that we're going to target,
Yeah.
for FY19
Yep.
that we would like to have resurfaced.
Sure.
And hopefully, as we look at examining the possibility of having extra funds via an override, that would be something that we think that hopefully the voters would
Right.
embrace.
Right. Is there any other major things that you can think of besides the roads and the paving that we need an override for that you can think of that you can talk about?
Well, and obviously part of a good portion of the override would go to the school system.
Yep.
Obviously their costs rise
Yep.
every year.
Yep.
Whether it's contractual
Yep.
with all of their employees, special education
Yep.
costs seems to be a real killer for them because it continually goes up.
Yeah.
And
it's something we have to do. It's mandated.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
And so it's something that they can't budget for
Right.
in advance. I mean, they try to do it,
Yeah.
but that's something that keeps going up. And then, of course, another thing in Pembroke, because we handle it at the town side, but it's both for the school department and town government, is health insurance.
Oh, right. And that's all, we can do a whole nother show on that. Yeah. The
That
cost of
is-
that is, and that's
is-
true of all towns.
Right.
It's a crazy figure, right? So we won't even get into that, but that's part of it. Now, the schedule for the annual town meeting, January 22nd, the annual town meeting warrant opens.
Right.
February 5th, the special town meeting warrant opens.
Yeah, now,
What's the difference?
the annual town meeting is the one in which the town budget's adopted and articles are adopted and all that. The reason we have a special town meeting within the annual, as
Yeah.
we call it,
Yep,
is for projects that we want to have available immediately.
yep,
Let's say there's a project in which we want to have handicap accessibility for town beaches.
Yep.
And we're looking at these portable mats that you can put along the sand
Yep.
to go down to the beaches. So, we're looking at that's an example of a project that we would like to have the money available
Yep.
before July the 1st.
Yeah, just to go run with it.
Because
Yep.
our beaches are going to be
Already open.
open
Sure.
Memorial Day.
understandable.
So anything that happens at the special within the annual and it has money involved in it makes that money available right away.
Perfect. February 9th, all the warrants close, so whatever's in there is in there.
Right.
You can't add to it from that point.
Yeah, every once in
You're
a
a
while
little
we kinda
flexible,
tweak it
but
a
yeah,
little
if
bit,
you have
but-
to be, right.
But you got to have a deadline somewhere.
Right, right. So the annual town meeting itself is May 8th, and that's the meeting at which the residents of Pembroke have to vote. If you do ask for an override, they would have to vote yes.
That's correct.
On doing it. And you would present all the reasons why you need it and what the money would go
Well,
for.
hopefully we're going to be doing that from between February
Right,
1st
to educate
all
everybody,
the way.
right,
That's
right.
right, all
The
the
more
way to the May
educate-
8th.
And people can't lose sight of the fact that we have a great school system. We have we really do have great roads. We have a beautiful town. Everything we do to our town adds property values to our properties. So you're almost paying yourself back. Sometimes you can look at it that way, even though people will probably say you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. But I know my property in Pembroke has gone up tremendously over the years. As Pembroke has grown, it's becoming a community that people want to live in.
Right.
So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think a lot of fortunately the development in Pembroke has been very orderly.
Yes.
Especially from a residential standpoint, because the way our zoning is situated, excuse me, with 40,000 square foot lots, which is almost an acre. So that if you have a new subdivision going in, other than some cluster developments that we have that are rare, it's basically very orderly, and the subdivisions are on 1 acre lots and whatever. So
They're well done.
yeah,
They're really well done.
I think the way the town is zoned and the way it's laid out, a lot of people don't understand it.
Yeah.
Or wouldn't know that 20,000 people live there.
That's right. That's right. Okay, we're out of time. May 8th is the annual town meeting, and then May 12th is the town elections. Right? So
That's right.
you're going to get the word out. You're going to get education going for everybody, for everything you're going to do. people need to tune in and watch the selectmen's meetings.
We'll have a bunch of more shows regarding that.
Good, and we can do different subjects on
Right.
the shows, yeah, so people could get really finite details.
Right.
Great, okay, thank you so much, Ed.
Got it.